There are a few examples that make you go, wait a minute, this is big. One of them is I think it is the study where they put these 70-year-old people in an environment for 5 days, and everything in that environment was from 20 years earlier when they were 50 something. Everything, magazines, the furniture, the way the TV looked, everything was from 20 years earlier. And this is not in John Borges' book, I don't think. This is in others. Within a week, their biomarkers changed. They were more flexible. Their gait was longer and more brisk. Their the cognitive processing improved just by being in the environment. So the environment primed them. There's a lot of these studies, but I think most people have heard the blue-eyed, brown-eyed study. This was back in the 50s, where the teachers were told that blue-eyed kids are smarter than brown-eyed kids, and those blue-eyed kids did better in class. And then researchers did some others. They just all of them had higher grades. This was a very disturbing study, right? And then what they did was they went back and they took they used double blind and groups and large enough samples, etc. And then they had others where they had the kids in certain places in the classroom and they were told the same thing. Some are smarter, and they showed this that just telling the teacher that changed the grades of the students. Very disturbing, and it makes you think twice in terms of the role that teachers and coaches play with the children. Another one. This is the one that there's two of them that got my attention and made me start looking at the network of neurons as much bigger than it was. The first one was the Asian American girl study. So you probably have seen the research that has said that people who are primed with their ethnicity sometimes do worse on standardized testing, and then others who are primed on their gender do better or worse. So these researchers got creative and said, this is interesting. What happens if we combine them? So for example, they used a math test because in math, it's assumed that, this is teenagers, they were like, I think 14 years old, that the boys are better at math than girls. That was a narrative that was out there at the time, and still is, I think, at least in the US. And then there's another narrative that Asians are better at math than non-Asians. And don't come at me, I'm just paraphrasing what the study said, John Borges, and this is in John Borges' book, Before You Know It. So then they said, well, what happens if they validated it, right? One and then the other, and it showed what they expected. The scores were better when they were primed for the gender or the ethnicity, depending on who was, thought to be good at math. And then they said, what happens if we combine them? So they put them both on there. And what was interesting is whichever one they put first is the one that dominated. So for the Asian American girls, they thought that this would break the system, right? What's going to happen? Because these Asian American girls, they're girls, so they're thought to be less at math than the boys, but they're Asian, so they're thought to be better at math than Americans. And what they found was that it depended on which one they put first. So when they put gender first, their math scores went down. When they put ethnicity first, their math scores went up. Fascinating. And that was like, whoa, because at the time I was studying cognitive biases and how these impact our personal development efforts and how they impact leading others.